Hello everyone, and welcome to this SpeedGaming 6 presentation of the Link to the Past Randomizer Open League. I am Mind DM, and I've got Talon alongside me to commentate this match today. Talon, how are you doing?
Hey, me and you. Happy to be back in the booth for another season of League for the Link to the Past Randomizer, and looking for a good open race today.
Yeah, we are a day and change into this new league season, Season 6. Week 1, the co-op All Dungeons info share coming up for you. A match between Blackjack and Shots, the Link to the Past Randomizer team, composed in this instance of Rabid Wombat and Vix Rider, against the Red Stalfos Exterminators, represented by Moo Cow, 1980, and Yoinker's Wife. Everybody's off and running. We seem to have the very convenient fact that the runners have agreed beforehand to properly sort themselves top to bottom with their Uncle Routes versus Sank starts, so we'll get information pretty readily here for the next handful of minutes.
Yeah, so as we get started, let's go ahead and talk about the mode a little bit. This is All Dungeon co-op info share. So the teams of runners are in a voice call together with their teammates, and will be able to share information about the things that they find and see to try to streamline the scene for their partners as fast as possible to defeat every dungeon and then eventually climb the tower and defeat Ganon. Not necessarily in that order. So yeah, we'll see a nice split. Nice glove sitting there on the graveyard ledge. That's exciting.
Yep. Right about now, Vix Rider and Yoinker's Wife communicating to their partners in those voice calls that, yes, we have a glove on Lumberjack now. It's all dungeons. Aga was going to be required anyway, but now you have another reason to maybe do it a little earlier than you might otherwise.
Yeah, bush crab's dropping bombs, so that's going to be useful for our runners as well. But I don't know about you. I'm a very much fan of having a required Aga early. Don't have to worry about it. Don't have to stress about it. Just whenever you can knock it out, go get your glove. So I'm fine with this.
Yeah, not only that, it's become a bit of a meme amongst some teams, and my own among those. Don't forget to do Aga after you've killed Aga 2, because you drop in on Ganon and he'll call you a dingus because you haven't completed your goal yet.
Yeah, I guarantee there'll be numerous teams who will just go for Ganon and kind of commit that nonsense. And it's fine. It happens. You're not the first, I promise.
But in a seed like this, you know it's not going to happen because, again, all dungeons, you're going to need that glove, whether that turns out to be your mitts or not, to complete at least 3 of the dungeons.
So going back to the idea of the info share, so we saw a mail upgrade and the thief drop down. That could be one of the things that, as you know, your partner hears that and like, I feel pretty good with my low percent. I may not need that as a time save and choose not to go for it.
It is the kind of thing that you can avoid when you're this early in the seed and you know where that is. It's kind of tough to turn something like that down. You need to be extremely confident that the seed is not going to cause you a whole lot of problems. Because some of these co-op seeds, you can wind up 6 hearts into a really late game, and you find yourself wishing that you'd gone and picked up that mail upgrade. You've known where it is all this time.
Yeah, completely agree. And you're right. It's one of those things that early you should just grab because it's info share. Things like heart pieces and heart containers may not get yelled out as frequently. So it wouldn't, it's not uncommon to see one runner have 13 hearts red mail, the other runner being on 7 hearts green. That's something that could definitely happen in this mode.
Yeah, one runner will check one side of the overworld, the other will check the other. Sometimes the hearts are a little unbalanced one side or the other. Ooh, there was a moon pearl in the back of the well here. That's not too shabby.
Yeah, and I think we picked up flippers, I think, in blind set as well. And a bow, potentially mini mold worm. So items just ripping through fast and furious.
Likely that whichever runner finds that bow is going to be the runner who makes the early play on Eastern Palace.
Yeah, our league team has a very simple mentality of whoever gets there first has to do all the bad checks. Nice boots sitting in Chicken Hunt.
And that's one of those things in the info share space. You have to decide, okay, when is the current portion of my route done? When do I go clean up the things my partner did?
Right, yeah, and boots is one of those things that will pull most runners out of their route pretty fast. You know, if you're in Eastern, you know, don't save and quit and try to go back just to grab them. But if you're as soon as you can hit your route to a terminus, you run for it.
Yeah, we do see Wombat particularly, who had been doing some of the other overworld checks early on, here about 5 minutes in, now in the village, going to pick up those things that Fixrider has found.
Right, and going back to what we were talking about with that info share, you see chests not being picked up by Wombat. His partner's already told him, hey, that's nothing, you don't need this, skip it.
Mukau having a little bit of an adventure here with this mini Moldarm. It's not cooperating. He kind of wanted those bombs, but left them a little too late.
Yeah, Fix went charging into that same cave, hoping to just use the hammer, and immediately got bounced into a hole, and now has to play a little careful. Oh, no.
Again, we talk about those dangers of co-op info share, and that's one of the ones, that's not even necessarily a co-op info share thing. You can just wind up in a mini Moldorm cave on this kind of equipment set. It's a little less common yet, and still, yeah, that's one of those early deaths where you think, alright, fine, I just gave my opponents 45 seconds or a minute, that's not so great.
Yeah, Mukau giving that time right back, getting absolutely crab-raved right outside of mini Moldorm cave.
Alright, where is Yoinker's wife heading here? Because she's definitely got the flippers, so we knew that that wasn't going to be some kind of a Houlihan play. Does she have a mushroom that I didn't notice, maybe?
Oh, I think she was thinking maybe Zora with the extra money and no
yeah,
gloves means you got to go from the south.
Yeah, the lack of gloves made that particular route a little inoperable.
Yeah, I like the push for Azora here with all that extra money and flippers, but unfortunately not that route going to get you there. See a bottle in Saha.
Yeah, and speaking of crabs, Vic's also having a substantial problem, and there's a bee that's just chasing him all the way across the lake.
Yeah, just like every housefly you have, you're just swinging at it, hoping to get it, and it's just dodging you.
The hammer is about the worst fly swatter in the world. Not that there are any good ones, but it's particularly bad at that job.
Yeah, it looks like Wombat has also picked up a sword. Thanks to our tracker, Near Light Shade, for pointing that out to us. And there's another one in Waterfall. Yeah, it's never too early to shout out our trackers. Lady Laura, Linda, and Nira doing the hard work of clicking the buttons for us. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
The ones who actually keep us focused and on track while we just kind of spitball about the seed for an hour and a half.
So it looks like Wombat's taking your advice. Going to go rush into Eastern and have to knock this dungeon out, having that early bow.
Yeah, it's 4 hearts, but you've got a sword, you've got a lamp, you've got the bow, and if you really want to, you can use the hammer on most things here as well, so it's not too bad. And you even have the blue mail, so it's better than an NMG loadout, plus you already have the boots.
I heard you like bows. Here's another bow. Zora holding on to the silvers.
Okay, and that way just have both bows, that's fine.
Yeah, so our runners in this early part of the scene, super stacked with plenty to do.
Not lacking for options, certainly. Not lacking for firepower. The health pool may be a little concerning in the early going, but they're going to be able to make most things go away relatively quickly.
Yeah, for our runners, I would be begging for another sword or a cape right now, just looking for that Dark World access through AGA 1, because once you get to Dark World, your options get wide open pretty quick.
And between them we have 2 swords, don't we?
Yeah. Oh, that's
it's
true.
Just none of them have the same sword.
Yeah, okay, so here's Vix getting that sword out of Saha while his partner takes care of Eastern. Is going to rush for Aga 1 and that glove.
Yep, you know where the glove is. You've got the Dark World access through this, and that'll kind of clean up the amount of Dark World access you have. You can start at 3 or 4 at that point. It's reasonably convenient. The Aga portal's not going to hurt, and it's really unlikely that you're going to find anything in Eastern that really changes your mind about just being ready to do Aga here.
Okay, it's going to continue with that co-op state of mind of whoever gets there first has to do the bad check. So being the first one to touch Hyrule Castle is going to have to clear through it a little bit, so their partner may not have to. But I could see a world where Vix getting through Aga 1 just goes right to pot and clears it.
Yeah, that's entirely reasonable. Now, Pod on 4 hearts is a little scarier than Eastern on 4 hearts, but you can probably get away with it. Now, I say that, but both of the red Stalfos Exterminators are up to 5 hearts now. I don't know if that's just which checks they've checked, or if they've been a little more conscientious about calling out the heart containers that have been available.
It's been a lot of farming of heart pieces in Kakariko. There was like one on the race game, there was one on the library, and they've made the choice to grab those to increase their heart pool.
And given the way health has been at a bit of a premium here in the early going, it may well stand them in good stead. That extra hit point here and there can absolutely help out.
Yeah, we've already seen a couple unfortunate deaths, so no joke.
Moo Cow heading for the sword in the waterfall. Then Yoinker's pulling her silvers from the mini Moldorm cave. Moo Cows are going to be on Sora.
But that's our first boss in dungeon down by Wombat.
Yep, pulling down the first dungeon of the game here. We're not quite 12 minutes in. Mushroom in Zelda's Cell. Well, thank you, video game. That's kind of an obnoxious check, but okay. Ether and Dark Cross. Bombos, I want to say, was relatively early. Was that?
Yeah, Bombos was in the house.
That's in the house chest. Alright, Vix gained a heart there, and now is going to have to try and quarter heart death warp off of rats. That's kind of unfortunate, but here we are.
Well, with that blue mail, it's even worse.
Yep.
It's almost faster just to save and quit and run back at this point. I mean, not at this point, but in the beginning it would have been. That's rough. All the cross keys players out there know the pain.
Moo Cow is also going to give us at least front of escape for the red Stalfos Exterminators here.
So both teams kind of having the same idea, it looks like. Send one through Eastern, send the other one to Aga.
I expect, based on the position of things, that we're going to see Wombat following Vix into the Aga play here pretty shortly.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like there's anything really left for our runners. We may see Wombat skip out on grabbing that mushroom for right now until they know they need it. Might even skip out on that ether until you know you need it, but I guess since you're already there, it's just to run back to dark. Well, death warping's slow, so I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, again, I think that death warp is slow. And since the door to the castle front closes and locks, it's not like you can just backtrack, so it is either the death warp or the save and quit at that point. I feel like you know where it is, you can go fetch it if it turns out you need it later, but we'll see. Wombat's going into the castle right now, so we'll find out in very short order what his plans are.
Yeah, it looks like just going for Agawad. I agree with this play. I definitely would leave those two what-if items till later. That glove gives you way too much access to Dark World, not even counting Pod.
Yeah, you try not to converge like this too much, usually, but in this case, you're doing it precisely because of that glove. It's going to give you the opportunity to really diverge afterwards.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's too many, if any, checks left for our runners in this case, so this is kind of the play whether you like it or not.
Yeah, we saw how bad Vix's death warps were. Mukau choosing to run back out of the basement, which is perhaps a little excessive of a choice. And seems to maybe be waiting here for a second to see if Yoinkers pulls, say, the other glove to get Dark World access before really biting the bullet on an Aga play of his own.
Yeah, and if that's the case, yeah, no, just you know the glove's there and you're going to need it eventually anyway. Just go get it. You know, as we were saying earlier, and one of our trackers commented again about it. You could do Pod worst case scenario if you don't do anything else after Aga 1. Just go. You're fine.
Vix seems to have had a fairly clean Aga Tower climb, only down 1 heart, and I feel like I blinked and missed most of it.
Yeah, had some really great routing in there, and also put those silvers to extreme use.
Yoinker is pulling another piece of heart out of the Vanilla Big Key location in Eastern, raising the heart count to 6. And there's that heart container in the back of Escape for Mukau, which is going to raise Mukau's heart container count to 6 as well. Thinking about exiting through the Sanctuary and then decides better of it, there's the save and quit. I think we're going to see the Aga play here fairly shortly, although he does still need to get the second sword. I'm not sure which one Mukau is missing at the moment.
They have their silver, so I have to assume it's the sword that's on Saha. Yeah, I wonder how much of that escape looking towards Sanctuary was just muscle memory.
Oh, alright, this is a mushroom turn-in. It took me a second to kind of process the path there. I don't often go to turn in the mushroom this way, especially with flippers.
Yeah, I wonder if that second sword was possibly just not called out, or if they're just really hoping there's something else to avoid it. Mukau, a fairly new runner, very prevalent in the community for restreaming, and if you have used an MSU, you probably have used one of theirs. TMNT Retro Mix, the Mega Man X Mix, Legend of Legaia, the list goes on and on and on. So, but relatively new to rando running, so it might just be an experience thing too. So we saw that the pyramid was nothing. We see Vix just racing over to Pod. This makes sense, especially with Wombat so close on their heels.
You would have to expect that Wombat will be the one performing the save and quit here after the Aga 1 cutscene finishes up and goes to grab that glove. And then you have a choice. Do you want to start at 3? Do you want to start at 4? Because you're pretty clearly not going back to Pod unless Vix finds something really amazing in here. There is that second sword and the bottle with red potion for Mukau.
Oh, your Chris wife checking Sick Kid, having that bottle as well. Really just trying to put it off the Aga play here. Nice bottle. I'll show you mine.
What a very childlike and appropriate response to a bottle, right? I have a bottle. Well, so do I. Here. This does seem to be the Aga play from both of the Red Stalfos Exterminators. I have to assume that Vix has mostly just found keys to this point. That's the way pod works.
Yeah, there's been nothing so far. They found a map. I know that. So, with Vix over in the eastern part of the world, it doesn't surprise me to see Wombat kind of angled toward going in near the Vu area and start clearing this mess.
Just get on opposite sides of the problem and meet in the middle. Now, Mukau is having a little trouble with these stabby guards, and I will say that Mukau is not the only person to have problems with those stabby guards. I had my own issues with them just last night. They are not nice. I do not like them.
Yeah, and they move at a much faster rate than you would think as well. So once they start pinning you against the wall, getting away from them to get your own sword slashes in can be very difficult.
Getting some ether strats there in the Dark Maze.
Yeah, that Dark Maze, if you can go through it relatively quietly, not using things like hookshot or sword beams, you can kind of sneak through there without triggering the guards, but once you do, it's kind of the same as the other room. It just kind of goes crazy very quickly.
And it can be even worse, because the guards' swords can overlap the rails, so you can't really get by them without taking the hits.
On the other side, we see Wombat going through the Vu checks first, not wanting to dip into Skullwoods, probably without the Fire Rod. And we see Vix trying to set up a hammering up here.
Wombat pulling the Redarang out of the brewery. That is, that's close to vanilla behavior, depending on some other nonsense.
You could say it. You could say best rang. It's fine.
No. That's the eponymous team name, the Iron Rang, also known as the Hookshot.
Hookshot. Best item.
Everybody knows who the best Rang is.
That's right. Preach. Alright, so still haven't really seen anything out of pod here, and the Vu checks not really pulling anything up as well, so good scouting for this team. They'll be able to tell their teammates, you can just dodge most of this.
That was a really interesting aggro of that red guard by Yoinker's wife. I'm not sure I've seen that happen before. It has to be a movement thing, and I'm not sure what she did to cause it.
So both members of Red Stalfos kind of get into their Aga fights at about the same time, and then we'll see how they want to diverge.
Three items in the front of thieves, and none of them seem to have changed anything. It's convenient insofar as you can tell your partner, well, you just don't have to open anything. And from that quick menu to get over to the hammer, we can see that Vix has all of the dungeon items here, so there is going to be something on Helma King.
Yeah, if I'm Vix, I'm sure they're hoping to pull like maybe a mirror off the Helmet King to just be able to go and wipe out Eastern while they're over here.
And we didn't comment on it while Blackjack and Hookshots was going through this Aga fight. This is not the most generous Aga in the world.
Yeah, there's a few too many blue balls here for my liking, I think.
Moo Cow is on through. I think Yoinkers has a couple of hits left to go. Nope, 1 hit left to go. There we are. And we'll see how those two want to divide up the Dark World.
Alright. Great fight by Vix on the Helmsarn King, putting them down. That's for a little bit of pocket change. We see on Wombat's side pulling a heart container out of Blind Cell, so nothing to advance the script in Thieves Town either.
Interesting that all of a sudden we've cleared 2 Dark World dungeons on the left-hand side, and no changes. You'd have to think that Vix is going to go get that glove now. You're kind of locked onto the east side of the world in the Dark World via that portal until you go and get the glove.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what Wombat does. They can skip Skullwoods for now and let Vix check that and do things like Hype Cave and the South checks. They can go to the mountain for a couple things. Not much up there, but could be something.
Vix going with the more traditional mushroom turn and using that whirlpool system.
Right. Yeah, we see the Red Stalfos starting to divide up their Dark World now. Mukau looks like they're going to head over toward the pod area, while Yogir's wife wants to dip into the Vu area as well. Could see a, yeah, with that glove, could see a check up here to Catfish. Could be something that the other team leaves off for quite a bit. Catfish, notorious for hiding items. Or being nothing. There's no in between.
And Yoinkers with the map check. Looks like we've got 5 6s at TR and Meyer. A pendant. No pendants. Where did our pendants go? I'm going blind. All right, it's Swamp.
Yeah, Swamp.
Pendant. I knew there had to be one. I was just looking at the map, thinking, where are the pendants? It's blue all the way around, except where it's red. That blue pendant was hiding. Yoinkers heading for the disappointment of thieves here. Probably going to be a little happy with the heart container and the maiden cell, but otherwise it's just one of those dungeons that you have to beat eventually.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Catfish sitting on the book. That's interesting.
That it changes little, but it changes just enough that I don't know, Talon. I would be awfully tempted to pop the save and quit right off that and go to desert.
Yeah, for Muka, I see them. I agree with the pushing to pod and clearing it out. It's right here. It's dense. You could make the argument whether it's faster to save and quit and just go back to the portal or walk. I think it's pretty much a wash. But it would be pretty high on my list to chase that book at this point, because you know that's a really bad spot.
It's a really rough spot for the item. It unlocks a dungeon that you're already able to full clear based on the things that you've done this seed.
Oh, it looks like Wombat pulled the mirror out of Skull Woods. I'm gonna go ahead and do these mirror checks up this way.
Value Woods strikes again the power of Dunka's 50,000 seeds.
Yeah, I'm a religious person who just takes the front of Skull Woods every time I can get to it. I'm just convinced there's always something there. The Graveyard Ledge, nothing. Per the normal.
Man, should you really rag on your own teammate that way?
I will do everything I can to rag on my teammates as often as possible. If you're in commentary and not ragging on your friends, why are you in commentary?
Good question.
So yeah, we see Mukau going into pod. Gonna find a whole bunch of nothing, sadly, as Yoinkers continues through Thieves Town.
Wombat 0 for 2 on these mirror checks now. King's Tomb also not paying out anything.
Yeah, and I'm sure Vix Rider are very appreciative of that, not having to do those terrible checks as well. I would guess Wombat's gonna probably just continue south and grab those checks now. Don't really know what Vix Rider can do. Has that mirror as well. Oh, there's the front of Swamp if you really want to get froggy.
I feel like Mirror Hammer combo gets you a decent chunk of the mountain.
Oh, yeah, it's a great shout. Yeah, Mirror Hammer really separates the mountain up into just being the front of it now, really being dense with checks.
I certainly like it better than a hookless Swamp Dive.
Hey now. Come on, live a little.
Well, how are you supposed to do Spexy Statue if you don't even have a hookshot?
Remember when they first discovered Icebreaker and then everyone swore off Ice Palace until you have Samaria? So every time Samaria was in Ice Palace, it just ruined you?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen with Specky now, too.
I loved those days. Those days were wonderful because I grew up on Ice Palace Bomb Jump and watching the 2017 main tournament VODs like 3 years after they happened. So all those people who refused to go into Ice Palace, I was just like, oh, well, I just pulled a red cane out of Ice Palace. Happy days.
Yeah, that's going to happen with Swamp eventually, too. Everyone's just going to swear it off until they have Hookshot, and it's just going to be sitting in there.
Not going to hurt my feelings.
Stumpy giving up their soul for Wombat for one more heart.
I missed whatever Vix saw in there, but since there's no jumping down happening, I have to assume that it wasn't worthwhile. Now, speaking of worthwhile things, though, that looks like a rod.
It was arrows in Spec Rock. But yeah, definitely pulling a fire rod out of K45. So having to double dip Skullwoods, there is no choice now. I'm sure explaining that to Vix, they just roll their eyes. Well, Yoker's wife, Blink, and you miss it, has a great blind fight, puts them down. That's 2 dungeons for them. As Mukau continues to be disappointed in not finding anything in pod.
It's difficult not to be disappointed with this pod because there's nothing in it. There are a bunch of keys and a dungeon prize that you need to collect eventually.
Alright, let's see what Hypecape has. Blue rupee, red rupee, arrows, disappointment.
Ah, Tripe Cave living down to its name.
Yup. We'll see if Yoinker's wife wants to go north into Skullwoods at all doing these VOO checks, or if they're going to have to put that mirror off just a little bit longer.
That mirror is in a little bit of a dangerous spot, but there's only so much that you can do without it. That's the thing that's really going to open up more than just a check or two here and there.
Wombat with Vix up on the mountain doing the swamp dip, my man.
Yeah, if he's already found both items out of Skull Woods, I don't particularly dislike this. This is... you've got some options, and none of the rest of them are great. Not that this one necessarily is, but if you pull something out of this, you look like a genius.
Yeah, and our runners not have... I'm sorry, the B&H team not having the book I mean, naturally that would pull you to desert, bombos, tablet, stuff like that, but not having that option concurrently, this probably looks better than rushing catfish.
Ooh, what looks less good is the 2 floors of falling and the emotional damage that Vix is going to suffer after getting inconvenienced by the worm.
Moldorm is a curse.
It is. Should we even be allowed to say that on SpeedGaming? I feel like we're going to have to ban Zaf.
Uh-oh. Tracker, being the eagle-eyed one they are, seeing the King of Samaria hiding in the Tower of Hera.
Convenient, but until we find the mitts, I don't know that it changes a whole lot. It's definitely one of those things that's nice to find. You absolutely require it to beat the seed, and it does make some rooms easier, so you're certainly not going to turn it down, but until we find that second glove, it's really more of a convenience item than anything.
Yeah, it's just one more thing not to have to look for later, that's all. But Vix gets his revenge, grabs the Green Pendant off of Moldorm. We'll see how soon they want to turn that in.
That is kind of the danger of being the player who cleared Pod and then cleared Green Pendant, but Vix does still need to put Eastern Palace in the bank at some point, so it's not necessarily the worst thing to have.
Wombat pulling powder out of Swamp. I'm sure very excited for this dip now that they have powder.
It's almost as though the seed is saying, go back, you need to be in the direction of Skullwoods. We gave you the fire rod for a reason. And who knows, maybe it didn't.
Scarecrow's wife did go into Skullwoods, does have their mirror now. Gonna probably take a safety death here.
Better inside the dungeon than outside the dungeon, absolutely.
That's right. Oh, Vic's missing that block deletion.
Those block deletions are tricky things.
Yeah, just don't try it inside of a dungeon. You will not enjoy what happens.
One of the primary causes of the classically named tactical mirror.
Bottom paradox, nothing real special. Let's see what the top has. You might need that. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I'd say Para 5's got the goods. Yoinker's now clear through the middle of Skull without that fire rod. Is not going to be going any farther, but again, with the mirror in the front, that's kind of the price of doing business.
So Wombat learning that the hookshot's on the mountain, I'm sure, is real excited to be in Swamp, but gonna go ahead and finish the left side to make things a little easier.
Yeah, if you can tell your partner that you just don't have to go here, well, at least you haven't completely thrown the time. Now, where is Wombat going here? Because we saw the thought about the save and quit, and I was figuring we were going to get him out and play, and then I saw the mirror come out, and I thought, well, Wombat remembered that you've killed Aga and you have the mirror, so that's just going to land you on top of the pyramid, and now instead we're, I don't know if this is a blind check of Hylia Island or not, but
yeah,
I'm getting a check of Hylia Island here. While Mukau fights the Helmosaur King, 1 silver arrow takes care of phase 2, easy peasy.
So Wombat, lover of all things fetch quest, grabs the shovel. All for the Lake Island. Yeah, and don't take that portal to go check Catfish. This is a very heads-up play, because this is something that would have been even more isolated later had they not done it now.
Yeah, you can see some of that advanced, longer-time player slash cross-keys knowledge. Here's a whirlpool that not everybody is gonna remember does this thing, and here's Wombat just kind of casually hopping on in. Cleans up the route with the shovel pretty well. Now I think our runners on B and H are going to be trading places here. Vix is going to do the back of Swamp, and Wombat's going to get the shovel first. Okay. Well, Mookow's going to get all of the disappointment from Pipe Cave, and Yoinkers lands on the Fire Rod.
Yeah, Wombat's got to be hoping to find the mitts before they go back up to the mountain at this point. Oh, and there they are.
Okay, so just get your mirror from Skullwoods so that you can get your shovel off of Hylia Island so that you get your mitts out of the dig spot. Okay, well, that makes Wombat's play up the mountain here, which I have to assume is what's about to happen, substantially better.
Yeah, that's a great call on that part.
Pop the save and quit again. Okay. Oh, okay, I see what this is. That Wombat has remembered that the Ether Medallion was in Darkcross, and wants the increased chance of getting into Turtle Rock, since he knows, thanks to Vix, where Samaria and the Ice Rod are.
Yeah, another heads-up play by this team, because that is something I did not even consider, but it is 100% the right call.
Yeah, you have to wonder if it's one of those info share things where Wombat said on the call, "Alright, I'm going to the mountain," and Vic said, "Do you have ether yet?" Because that's what your teammate's there for. Try to keep you sane. Yoinkers is now up on the mountain and going to be discovering Samaria and the Ice Rod here in the near future.
Great double hook spin strat there by Vix Rider on Argus. This is the arrow shot. That shot's a little trickier than you think it is, but it eventually nails it down.
Yeah, once you miss the first one, Argus gets a little dicier. Good job cleaning it up with only a couple of additional arrows. Usually, for me, it's more like 5 or 6.
Right?
It can get pretty bad. It's the kind of thing that you don't really want to do on Restream. Now, Vix is going back into Swamp Palace here, so my guess about what happened is that the big key showed up somewhere in the back, and there's still an item left over, so we've got a big chest check incoming.
Just showing off the new Specky clip, that's all. One more time for the viewers. Ignore that first RNG minute. So where's the flute? That's all we're really waiting on.
I don't know, how do you feel about in Turtle Rock?
It kind of feels like it's pushing Turtle Rock, doesn't it?
We do also still have that outstanding green pendant, I believe.
Yeah, great point. There was a race earlier today that the green pendant was the deal breaker. Hiding the mirror, I believe.
Okay, Yoinkers has the Cane of Samaria now, heading for the boss fight here in Tower of Hera, and Mukau working on the Village of Outcast Overworld. Speaking of finding the red cane, there's the red cane. I finally saw someone pick it up, Wombat grabbing it out of the non-big chests on this floor.
So on B&H side, we have our runners kind of trading dungeons, cleaning up stuff the others already done. While in Red Stalfos, we have Mukau going in and polishing up a couple dungeons, while Yoinker's wife continues to blaze the way. Oh, and Moldorm continues just to batter the runners.
Yoinkers got through the fight relatively cleanly, but both of the runners on Blackjack and Hookshots do seem to have had their worm turn a little bit, as it were. There's the revenge fight for Wombat, though. And we'll probably see Wombat get through this, the light side of the mountain just a little quicker, knowing that Spiral Cave was nothing, with Vix having done it already in Paradox. Yoinkers still has a little way to go.
Alright, so we're about to see that green pendant turn it in by Vix. Probably the reason they came over just to knock Eastern out anyway. But I would guess if there's nothing here, we'll see them run right to Ice Palace. But yeah, I mean, after getting their mitts, of course. And Zaha not having the goods today.
It's fine, we already have the boots. That's what he's supposed to hand you, so...
Orca's wife just grabbing the bounty that is top of Paradox.
Yeah, just go to Para 5, that's where your goods are.
Won't be a small time save for Yorker's wife. Won't have to double dip Swamp Palace like Wombat's going to have to do. We'll be able just to go in and clear it in one go.
And it's a good thing that Wombat went back for that Ether Medallion. Ether, the required medallion to enter Turtle Rock.
Yeah, the TP&H has really made some heads-up calls of, checking things efficiently and, grabbing things that may or may not have slipped someone's mind. That could have really led to some problems going to Catfish through that portal after remembering to get the shovel, grabbing the ether ahead of time. It's been one good call after the other with this team. Yorker's wife heading down to check the green pendant. Sees that it's nothing. Mukau setting up for their blind fight. Vic's gonna run over and grab this book. Interesting, since they don't know that it's required yet.
Yeah, this is a bit of an interesting choice. I feel like maybe the idea here is, well, we still don't have Flute, and it gives Vix something to do that's not just following Wombat into Turtle Rock, or just going and cleaning up Skull and Thieves. But by
Yeah,
the
but
same
I mean,
token, as you were just saying, he could go dig up his mitts and then go to Ice Palace, which is a fully logically clearable crystal dungeon.
yeah, and with Samaria, it's super quick. So in Bombos and Fire Rod and a bottle, if they want to fill it up, there's plenty of safeties there. Cape on Floating Island. I don't recall seeing anything on Bumper Ledge.
It's still not a terrible safety to have.
No, because let me tell you what's slow. Dying. Dying is slow. Ask me how I know.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's because you've done it before.
You got it figured out. Best comms in the game, everyone.
Now, confirming what I believe to have been everyone's suspicions, Wombat absolutely diving Turtle Rock here.
Okay, we're gonna see Vix. Okay, I thought maybe we'd be checking Bombo's tablet, but it has other ideas. Smith chain? Oh, maybe it's a Smith chain into Bombo's tablet.
That's the thing you can do. I'm not sure. I don't know. I guess it's faster to run to 4 from there than to save quit Sank and run to 3, maybe?
Let's see, Mukau. Maybe checking that Bombo's tablet, trying to let Yorkie's wife know if they need to go get the book. If you feel like that book is a potential advantage, I'm all for chasing it.
Couple of small keys, a big key, and a sword upgrade in the front of Turtle Rock. Certainly not going to turn that one down when you've got a fight looming with Trinex.
Mukau had a kind of a thought after Bombos whether they should save and quit, but again, pushing that book and go into desert, I like this call. If Flute's just sitting in here.
Yeah, if Flute's just in here, all of the Turtle Rock and Ice Palace plays in the world are not going to avail B&H. Now, they're dungeons that they're going to have to beat anyway. It's not like they're losing anything by doing it, but if you wind up having to do everything else looking for a flute that's just behind the book... A very vanilla small key on the torch there for Mukau and Desert Palace.
Yeah, and if it comes down that, Flute's just sitting in desert somewhere, then it really comes down to how fast does the Red Stalfos team grab their shovel.
Mitsuko mode is pretty nice if you can get it. It locks you out of an awful lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
things.
Yeah, because it lets you go mode some potentially long dungeons that you can just rip through as soon as you find the big key. But, yeah, we see Wombat continue to push through. Tiara going to meet her and grab the Mimic Cave as Vix pushes and tries to clear their Thieves Town.
And I find this kind of an interesting play, and catch me on this one, but Vix is way out ahead in dungeons right now, compared to Wombat.
I was just going to make that call that the disparity in dungeons is getting pretty high over on B&H, but it might just be, the sooner we can get someone into GT to scout it for my partner, the better. We know there can't really be anything in there that our runners are going to want, so...
Yeah, we've already seen 3 swords, Silver's half magic already in the bag, we've seen both mail upgrades, we've got a couple of bottles already. There's not really anything in there aside from the big key that anybody's going to be worried about. So really, I guess I'm just surprised that Vix isn't going for the new information of, say, an Ice Palace play, rather than going on dungeon cleanup of things we already know.
Yeah,
Speaking of dungeons, B&H is only up 1 dungeon right now, incidentally.
Yeah, and it really speaks to what we were saying before. If they can get to a point where they're Mit's go mode, then this gets real interesting real quick. Because then it's how much does B&H dig through dungeons until they just settle on desert.
No, there it is, into Laser Bridge. Game's got jokes. I've heard them before.
So we're kind of go ahead.
Barring a sudden need for Quake, that should do the things that Blackjack and Hookshots needs done.
Right, yeah, it's kind of a pseudo go mode right now until we know what the Minor Medallion is, but I would guess Wombat will charge that area next.
And there was an item left over on the boss there in Desert for Mukau, but just 10 sticks. That is unfortunately not the item that Red Stalfos needed to be there. That lives on Laser Bridge.
So yeah, with nothing in Desert, Mukau can definitely communicate to Yoinker's wife. Don't worry about the book, it's a trap, don't follow it. We're still looking for stuff. And I don't know if either member of that team scouted the Lake Island at all to know if there's anything there. I don't know that B&H did either. I think they just made the call to check it blind.
And it's the kind of thing that you can check blind relatively easily after swap, so I wouldn't be entirely surprised to see Yoinker's wife just go land on that shovel.
Wombat trying to use that flute ahead of time that they just found. Not pre-activated, my friend. You're going to have to go to Kakariko.
Not as convenient as it otherwise could be. This is going to be a bit unfortunate. Mukau now getting up onto the mountain, going to wind up having an additional dip of the mountain once the team finds the mitts. It is a little interesting that Mukau has not chosen to go get that mirror. Unless we just have an eaten input, which is possible. But given the way that he's rushing up the mountain right now, it sure feels like he's intending to go get the items that he knows are there.
Yeah, I think with K45 having the fire on, they must have the mirror.
Yeah, yep, there it is.
And it is Ether for Misery Mire, so that is official go mode for B&H. Sub-hour go mode, we will take it.
Sub-hour go mode in a seed where you had to do AGA to regularize your Dark World access, that the rest of your Dark World access was sitting on the shovel that was on Hylia Island, behind a mirror in Skull Woods that you were forced to double dip. Yeah. No, this time feels pretty good, all things considered.
Yeah, and even more so for Vix Rider, they have all the dungeons scouted for them except Ice Palace and Desert. So they will be able to blaze through the remaining ones relatively quickly, where Wombat has some serious legwork to put in to catch up. But knowing the path, they know what they need to do. And here's Yoinker's wife rushing over with that shovel, gonna get their mitts as well. See how badly they want to go up to TR.
It's a bit dangerous because you can definitely see a circumstance in which you decide, well, I'm not exactly on top of Ice Palace, but it's pretty close.
Well, also for Yorker's wife, we'll have to see if they think to go back into Dark Cross for that either. So, and since we're at the about hour mark, let's go ahead and do the thing we like to do. If you're enjoying the race being put on before you, and probably should, it's pretty great so far. Why don't you give these runners a follow? Yorker's wife and Mukau, representing the Red Stalfos Exterminators, and a Rabid Wombat and Vix Rider representing the B&H, a LTTPR team. I want to thank them for allowing us to put on this show. Definitely also want to shout out our trackers, Lady Laura Linda and your Light Shane, doing the hard work so we can just have to talk about it. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, so and Talon and I get to do the easy work.
Yeah, we're not working
this
at all.
This is the simple part.
We're doing what we were probably going to do anyway and watch the race, so...
Yeah, just watch the race, banter about it with a friend or two, that's fine. That's the way Rando works, right?
Wombat starting their abuse of Vitreous. Silver is just destroying them.
Yeah, in vanilla, this is one of the 5/6 crystals, so you can't do that. That thing that Wombat just did, that's not something you get to do in the vanilla game.
Yeah, Godmire actually paying off for our runners this time. Oh!
Moldorm is 3 for 4 today. And 2 of them were center holes, because Vix got center holed earlier.
Yeah, that Moldorm is on a tear today. But shout out to Yoinker's wife doing what everyone wants to see and pulling the pedestal.
Sometimes you just have to give the fans what they want. I definitely pulled that last night hoping for the lamp of all things. Needless to say, it wasn't there, but I would have been amused if it was.
I had a ladder race last night. It was a pedestal mitts on a must Agazine. It was wonderful.
Ooh.
The best kind of cash boots.
And Wombat just seems to be flying through this cleanup, already into the back of desert. Has that Mire crystal in hand already.
Yeah, if you're reading these runners and don't recognize some of the names, one of the names you really should pay attention to is a Rabid Wombat. He has come leaps and bounds in the last year in his execution and game knowledge. And you will see him in tournaments from here to come. Yorker's wife swatting the moth.
Yeah, not the most cooperative moth in the world, but Fire Rod does eventually get the job done there for Yoinkers. Speaking of bosses that you're not supposed to be allowed to use magical silver ammunition on, blink and you missed Landmo there.
That's way better than vanilla. Bow Landmo sucks.
Well, in vanilla, Saha gives you a hint. Maybe you should go down on the east side of the lake and pick up something that might help.
Well, that's fair. That's actually a really fair shout.
Wanted to use Ice Rod there. But going and getting the Ice Rod then is slow, so yeah, NMG runners don't do that. At least not the ones who are pushing for highly competitive times.
So Yoiker's wife continuing to push through the dark overworld, trying to pick off a few of these checks, looking for that flute. Unfortunately, he's just hanging out up in TR, yay. Thanks, Fix. Thanks for showing us.
I think that mini Helmosaur may have wanted to become an honorary Moldorm. What do you think? Just
Yeah, I was definitely trying.
Casually bumping Vix into the pit. Yoinkers now with the hammer pegs out of the way, going to continue probably, what, on the Smiths at this point?
Yeah, it would make sense. Mukau got to go ahead and take care of the moth while they're up here.
Yeah, if you're up in the area, it's not the worst time to do it. Especially since Red Stalfos Exterminators hasn't found the flute yet. You're not quite sure when you're going to get back into the area, so yeah, why not just go ahead and put paid to the moth really quick.
Vix Rider putting down Trinex, grabbing their 7th dungeon completion. 8th if you want to count Aga 1. Gonna go activate their flute, start finishing the rest up.
Speaking of uncooperative enemies, those turtles really didn't want to help Wombat get through that room at all. Mukau with some lamp lighting strats there in the back of Skull Woods, trying to maintain just as much magic as possible.
Yeah, Mothra's one of those fights that can just be an absolute burden, regardless of your equipment, if they just want to sit up in their spikes. So, Fire Eye can help push them out of the way a little bit. But Half Magic, Red Mail, don't see this being a problem for Moo.
Yeah, the problem with the mail upgrade here is that so much of this is trap damage. All of those spikes floating around, which are really the problem point for taking damage, those are going to do 1 heart no matter what mail upgrade you have. And Mukau just burns his way through anyway. So, yeah, easy game, right?
So, for one of the first times the entire seed, B&H is in the same area. They've done a really good job of splitting the work up so far in this seed.
Yeah, essentially the first time since the AGA 1 play, we've got both of the runners of the team in the same place at the same time. This looks like Mukau heading for that shuttle.
Yeah, probably not too many other options left. Has to know that their flute, wherever it is, has to be locked behind those mitts somewhere.
And depending on the play, we could see for a very brief moment all 4 of our runners in Ice Palace at the same time, theoretically.
Nice gold sword just hanging out in Ice Palace. Our runners will have all the weapons.
Not really a whole lot else missing. I guess if you want to deal with a lot of dead rocks in a timely manner, you could want the Quake Medallion.
So back to some divergence for Red Stalfos. We do see Mookow heading up the mountain. We'd guess this is most likely a TR play.
Wombat putting Cold Stare in the corner there, and that Butter Sword just puts in the work. Mookow getting into the menu for a second there. I wonder if that was a... Yoinkers just found the sword. Do I really have the things that I want to go do a Trinex fight right now? And it has absolutely no idea just at this moment that there's another sword just waiting in there. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was just a note-taking thing of, oh, let me write that down real quick. I'm probably going to want to know where that's at.
Wombat getting absolutely bullied by those zeros.
Yeah, we're just getting absolutely plagued on by them. We're just caught in the middle in the water. Big Shredder getting the benefits of the God Miner. Going to go right back to Ventress to finish that off. While Wombat will start to run through Swamp Palace.
And Swamp is not going to take terribly long. Having already been in here, you don't really have to do a whole lot. Just going to have to remember which keys to get and which not to. Mookow, seeing that Ether Medallion required for Turtle Rock, has to be at least a little happy.
Yeah, hopefully communicating over to Yonkers wife, hey, remember to go grab that Ether out of Hyrule Castle. You're going to need it.
I know we found that 45 minutes ago, but yep, we're going to have to get that one.
Simultaneous medallion shots from Red Stalfos' team.
Just completely different medallions in completely different places. Yoinkers was going to go for the spins there, and then the Cold Stare Puffs kind of got her cornered a little bit and said, okay, fine, Fire Rod.
Yeah, fine. This is what you want, and this is what you can have.
Fire Rod does the equivalent of Gold Sword damage. It is highly effective against Cold Stare Puffs, and very recommended, provided you have the magic to make it work.
Down goes Argus for another boss down for Rabid Wombat. Still has a couple more places he needs to go finish up. And unfortunately, they're pretty spread out while we see Vix Rider going into Desert to get their last dungeon.
And this does kind of come back to the point where I think Vix was up 4 or 5 to 2 in dungeons on Wombat at some point, and now he's still going to be up a couple of dungeons heading into GT.
Yeah, and seeing this kind of split, you're kind of thinking, okay, that's fine. You know, you're going to get into GT and scout it for me, so whenever Wombat does get there, they can just immediately push through. But yeah, definitely quite the disparity. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I want to say Wombat does have Desert finished.
Yeah, because we commented on Silver Arrows at the time. That's right.
Okay, so yeah, not quite the disparity we originally thought.
And whether he's got Hera or not, Hera is pretty quick in a go mode situation. You just walk in, Herapod up, and make Moldorm go away. But yeah, now that we stop and think about it, again, with Yoinkers being the only one who didn't suffer a Moldorm fall, we can probably also say that Wombat has cleared that dungeon.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine thinking about that. Think about the things you've said, Forehead. That's all you have to do.
That's why we're not tracking. We're just talking about it. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we told you, people.
Mukau about to hit the Vanilla Big Key location of Turtle Rock, which is not going to have what he's looking for. And Yoinker's going to go clean up Pod.
Yeah, that team has to know that it's got to be buried behind their midst somewhere. It can't be in Meyer, so most likely Mukau's going to find it. So she's just going to pick this dungeon off while Mukau does a little bit of the work finding that item they need.
Well, here we are. Vix has every single dungeon done. The only thing standing between him and the pig is finding the GT Big Key, climbing the tower, defeating the wizard again.
Speaking of a certain tower, where would you like the big key to be?
I feel like the Big Key is always a little more dangerous in co-op for whatever strange reason. And at least my team has somewhat decided that most of the route winds up getting based on how big the gap is, and I don't feel like the gap between Vix and Wombat is large enough that they can necessarily make a choice based on that. So maybe it's just going to be whatever Vix is comfortable with, and go from there.
Yeah, a lot of times you'll see, like a hopeful left if there's a big disparity. But yeah, we could definitely see one go left, one go right, and just see who gets to it first. I will say it will not be in double firebar though. So.
Give me compass room bottom left.
I'll take Rando top right. The single arrow, no! How will you defeat Ganon now?
Vix, pick up your sticks. Not really a whole lot to write home about there in Stalfos' room. A couple of small keys is really about it.
Oh man, does get the small key out of Hope Room. We'll be able to continue right. Oh, double fireball pushes them with his shield.
And Vixrider, being the player who didn't pick up any boomerangs, has to resort to some Kana Samaria strats there to navigate a couple of rooms. Oh, I was close. I was so close. It was bottom right, not bottom left. Big key found by Rabid Wombat here at 1 hour and 20 minutes. And Vix immediately popping the mirror and hitting right. Mukau almost to Laser Bridge. You can practically smell the flute at that point.
Yeah, they were in that track maze a little bit and then went back out through the top. I'm not quite sure what happened with that. Looks like Moo was trying to practice a little bit of those laser skips. Not quite getting it. Gonna go ahead and activate the cape. And yep, here it is. Never mind.
Just trying to maintain the suspense a little while longer.
And there is go mode for Red Stalfos Exterminators. Unfortunately, just a little bit behind as B&H starts their climb up the gauntlet. And having already finished AGA 1 as it was required this scene, both runners will be able to drop right after AGA 2 right into Ganon. So this is going to be a great time for B&H.
Yep, they had a really good division of labor. The things that they did, by and large, really worked out in their favor, and it's going to be reflected in a really solid time. Yoinkers with that pod crystal in hand gets the call from Mukau. Yep, the flute's up here. Gonna have to do this one next. And Trinex is kind of giving Mukau the business here.
Mukau opting for the hammer strats has the tempered sword. I wonder if they're just more comfortable with hammer.
Yeah, it could be. At this point, with the half magic and the fire rod, I would be tempted to just rod spam rather than worry about swapping back and forth to the hammer. But there it is, phase 1 down for Mukau, just waiting out a long and arduous chain of explosions.
Wombat flirting with death on the top of the gauntlet here. 1.5 hearts. Goals through assist, never a doubt. We're fine.
Yeah, unwilling to open anything, but going to wait around for a couple of fairies. Gets his revenge by buttering up the worm.
Yeah, Buttersword just obliterating Old Worm. Not checking relegation chest. Come on, my guy.
Oh, Vix. Vix's adventure with pits in this seed continues. This time the fireball got him.
Yeah, Vix, who has never met a drop down he's never liked. Oh, nice triple there from Wombat.
You said something, didn't you?
I do it because I care. Mukau rushing over to activate this flute. Gonna start picking off some of these dungeons. Probably heading over to Meyer next just to confirm they have the medallion they need, I would think.
Wombat dropping in for the Ganon fight here at 1:25. And it's going to be an easy enough fight with the mail upgrade and the butter sword and the silvers, and already has a red potion equipped for just in case. But you always kind of wonder about that mental state when you get into the very tail end of the seed, because you always think, okay, well, we know we had some bad deaths, we had some Moldorm falls, we had this, that, and the other thing happen. Are we okay? Are we really okay?
Yeah, it's the constant rando state of mind that you have made every mistake and your opponents have made every correct decision, so you must be behind, right?
And it's even worse in co-op, because it's not just, oh, I might have lost a race, it's, oh, I might have cost my friend the race, too.
That's right.
So you can see Wombat taking this Ganon fight very conservatively. Looks like he's got him set up for a finishing shot here.
Yeah, I wonder if they had any kind of like magic potions left and they were just like, well, hold on, let me just be a little safe on this one. But holds up the sword. If they can defeat the bridge, wherever Wombat will be the first to finish this race. And does it get those GGs in chat for a Rapid Wombat? Finishing the 1:26.32, very strong time. Vix drops into Ganon.
Just a hair over a minute and a half on that Ganon fight. Not too shabby. Mukau here cleaning up pace while Vix is into phase 2, and Yoinker's wife, knowing the key layout here, thanks to Mukau having gone through already, knows that looping around outside past the big chest not required.
And Vix putting 4 arrows in the pig, sees the explosions. Now if they can conquer the bridge, they will cross, and then we'll give B&H their win for this game 1 of a 2-game series.
And that'll put game 1 in the books for Blackjack and Hookshot's the Link to the Past Randomizer team. It's always nice to get that first win on the board. I have to think that they've been happy about that for the past 10 minutes. We do run a small delay on this, a serious tournament and all that.
Yeah, so serious. Hello, how's it going, bud? GG's.
Not too bad. Thanks for the GGs.
And GG Vix, we have the runners for B&H in the booth with us. GG, guys.
Hey, GG's. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That was a pretty impressive run. Great division of work from both of you, really splitting it up and hitting that GT about the same time.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked out that way, because I felt a little weird about diving swamp with no hookshot.
Hey, I was up in the booth supporting it, bud. I was like, yeah, there's my guy. He knows where to dive swamp.
You're in the area. You might as well do it now.
Well, and you guys were pretty much just down between mountain and swamp at that point. You really didn't have much left, having not gotten the book at that point, which was total bait anyway.
Yeah,
Silly
for sure.
catfish.
Yeah, was there any kind of trepidation finding that book on catfish? Like, oh no,
I,
we
I,
could have
I,
had this a long time ago.
I saw that and I'm like, eh. But I had the shovel too, where I'm like, all right, let me check the shovel first. And then when it was like, oh, awesome, mitts, let me just go clear the entirety of the mountain.
Yeah, we were talking about that too. That maybe you were waiting, knowing what was in Paradox to find the mitts to go up there, and then you found it immediately next. Had you scouted the Lake Island and knew the shovel was there, or was that a blind check?
Vix said that the shovel was there.
Okay.
Yeah, I scouted it fairly early because as soon as I got those flippers, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go do the Zora checks, and then I got chased by a bee. So
Yeah, that's right. That was amazing, by the way.
Pretty much everything in Hyrule was out to get you today, Vix. Would you like to talk a little bit about how many different enemies knocked you into bits this seed?
no, no, I don't know what happened. I just for some reason it just wasn't clicking this evening, and I don't know why. I guess I learned my lesson. Don't play in my golf league and then do one of these tournament races. Lesson learned.
So yeah, you guys kind of burned through the front part of the game, and it really just kind of front loaded you a little bit. I mean, that glove sitting on Lumberjack didn't really feel like a detriment. It almost felt like a positive because you're like, okay, well we got to do Aga anyway, so we just get to do it early.
Yeah, just the glove locks so much. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna follow you to Aga. Let's just do this, and then we'll just split up.
Yeah, for sure. Like as soon as we saw that, it's like, okay, thank God it's all dungeons and we have to do this anyway. As soon as we get access to it, you might as well just do it.
Yeah, I think the only time you guys really were in the same area was you both were in Aga 1 about the same time, and then you both kind of high-fived in Ice Palace for a very little bit. And then past that, you guys were separated until the end, which is definitely how you want to do it.
Yeah, for sure. It felt good to just split up and have everything kind of... Because there have been seeds in the past where one person finds everything and the other person doesn't. This one felt kind of nice where everything just seemed evenly spread out.
Until you got mad at me for finding butter.
I'm not going to check anything in Ice Palace, he says as we're both walking in.
Well, that was in muscle memory chest. You can't blame him for opening that.
Sure, I'll give him that.
I mean, plus you're literally hook-shotting to the chest. You're physically touching it. It just so happened to be butter, which was hilarious.
So, Vix, I'm not sure about you, so I apologize, but I know Wyatt, this is your first league. How's it feel to have the first one under the belt and getting the win out of it?
It's a nice start, but like, you know, I don't really want to let anything go to my head. There's still plenty of other, you know, good teams in the division that we're gonna have to perform against.
Yeah, this is a game out of the Palace of Darkness division, I believe, and it's pretty stacked in there, so you guys definitely have your work cut out for you.
On the plus side, we get to run against a bunch of friends, so it's always... It makes for a more fun time, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the best part about League.
100%.
So which crazy teams do you have in your division? There are so many divisions it becomes difficult to keep track of after a while.
Well, what you got? There's the long shots. There's why can't I remember P-Train's team? Is that the underperformers?
The underachievers.
Underachievers.
The cowardly Dodgers. I need to go back and look, actually.
I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. Those are the ones that stood out in my head, at least initially.
Well, let's talk about. So you've got Derek Zoolander's team that's sitting there. Yeah, your correct. Long shots is in there. Cowardly Dodgers.
I know the Prof
Dorstein,
Gamer.
Underachievers. There's some really
I
stacked
know the
teams
Prof
here against
Gamer, but I
Screw.
don't know So Last Summer Iron Gamer all that well.
Yeah, I know Iron Gamer pretty well from racing in a couple of tournaments with him in groups. Definitely a solid runner.
Akuheish was in the same mentor tourney class as me. I think they were Gold Sword, so they've probably done something with themselves since.
Yep, I've seen them in a couple tournaments too. So
The
yeah,
only
definitely no slouch of a division for you guys to have to get through.
Yeah, the only team I don't really know is the Butter Sword Knights.
I believe that's a bunch of Gold Sword bracket mentees from this year's mentee class.
Oh, that's kind of cool, actually.
That's what I've been told, anyway.
Yeah, I recognize Guy Average and Dylan Lee. So, but Ducky, I'm not quite sure I know them. But yeah, I think those are mentees that are kind of banded together from that tournament to form a league team.
That's kind of a cool thing to do. I guess, you know, in retrospect, I ended up skipping League last year, like, because I was, like, right out of Mentor Tourney. But if I could have done something like that, that would have been neat. So, good for them. Hope they do well.
So we're just kind of watching Mukau and Yoker's wife finish off the last few of the dungeons they have, trying to get their way up to GT.
Yeah, they said in the race room that they were going to try to finish.
Yeah, and they did put on a solid show. I will say that they got to the book first, and that was a little interesting insofar as I believe it was Mukau went ahead and used the book to enter Desert, and at the time, Talon and I were speculating, well, if the flute is just behind the book, how much more does B&H have? How much more can they full clear before they finally go land on Desert Palace? And then, of course, you just pulled the flute off of Laser Bridge, and all of that went right out the window.
Yeah, so as soon as he found the flute, that was my next plan, because I was going to take the purple chest down to Bombo's tablet and just go into Desert from there. And see what we can find. I was also going to blind pool Ped, but I figured I better not. I figured might as well just do what we can, see if we can get this, see if we can get the win.
Yeah, they were pushing through Desert, and actually I think they were just outside the Landmo fight when you pulled that flute. So there was a little bit of, this could be really interesting, and then, you guys had made the right calls at that point to really just surge ahead.
Nice silver shot by Mukau there. Remember, Talon, when we were saying when I think it was Vix let that fight get away a little bit and managed to clean it up with a couple? Mukau managed to clean it up with one.
Yeah, from across the screen.
Yeah, from
like
across
a
the screen.
sniper shot of that thing.
From downtown.
He's on fire.
Yeah, but it really felt like kind of the story behind this scene was your guys' division of work and not stepping over one another and, choosing not to clear dungeons that had nothing in them until later really kind of was the difference in this one.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I feel like our plan, at least how we split up and all that, just flowed really, really nicely in this scene, because nothing was like really bottlenecked other than the castle tower and that glove.
And it does feel like, for all that it's just normal all dungeons, no key sanity attached, it is a little difficult to keep these under an hour and a half, and you did. I feel like most of my practices have wound up being a little north of that rather than a little south, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, same here. I've had way more that are north of 130 than I've had south of it. And yeah, you guys absolutely just cleaned it on this one, so great job.
Well, I think we can thank Talon for that.
What did I do? Hold on, wait.
Our first race was a practice race against you and Pi.
Oh, yeah.
And, I practice with you guys, like, all the time, so...
Yeah.
Some of the experience comes in handy. Trying to do it, with a new team, like, still learning, getting used to each other. it takes work. So I'm glad to see that at least like the practice, what we've done is doing well.
Yeah, it's something that definitely can be taken for granted. You have some of these teams who have been together for 3, 4, 5 seasons even, who just know how each other's play and doesn't need as much cooperative practice. Where some of these newer teams, especially in the open league, you don't know each other's tendencies or how they like to route or what they're comfortable with, armor, sword, and heart-wise. And it's a process of figuring that out. And you guys, I think, have really taken a great step forward. But let's talk about not checking relegation chest there, Wombat. I feel like you know better.
Listen, I debated. It's like, do I just like hover this instead?
Yeah, young man. Where was that?
And I did. And I decided not to. I decided to just play it easy.
That's fine. There'll be a review later.
Whatever. Maybe I'll try to do it on Saturday for our next race.
Oh yeah, that was my next question. Is do you guys know who's racing the next one and when it's scheduled?
I believe it's Gray, Corvid, and myself. I believe we're slated for 4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday.
Okay.
I can't quite remember who on Stalfos Exterminators is running.
I think it's the same too.
Yeah, speaking of Red Stalfos, we see that New Yorker's wife is now in GT and is going to start pushing through looking for their key, while Mukau poshes off Vitreous and will be heading up the mountain as well.
We have the third member of Red Stalfos in chat saying that it's going to be Yoinker's wife and Fiery Bunny. So both sides going to change it up a little bit for the game too. That's pretty common.
Yeah, the league rules state that each team member has to run X amount of seeds before the playoffs. So trying to divvy out that work between everyone, it's just the first step, just getting through the AD. Looking forward to the rest of League. Is there modes that you guys are looking forward to, or maybe a little less so?
I mean, I'm always a fan of Champions Hunt. I don't think that's a surprise to people who know me.
I will say I'm not looking forward to Pilot Spoiler.
That seems to be one of the more divisive weeks. Is it just because none of your team is particularly comfortable with the spoiler log, or is there some other part to it?
Oh no, I'm piloting both of them, and I am not very good at piloting at all. I get too flustered reading the spoiler log and trying to, like, I have this one-track brain where everything just goes at once and it doesn't always fall into place. Plus, I'll be out of the country that week when it happens, so that'll be fun trying to schedule.
Oh, that'll be exciting.
And then, in part, is also probably what you said, where I think it's just a lack of experience running spoiler seeds between us.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys. It was one of those modes I wasn't super happy to see come back to League, but I mean, I understand it. There are people who do enjoy it, and it's another co-op mode-ish. So I'm not terribly surprised, but yeah, I was just like, great, I'm so bad at this.
Yeah, it'll probably be something we put some practice in between now and then.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say you've at least got a couple of weeks before that week comes up where it seems like you've got the AD co-op meshing pretty well. Kaz Boots is a fairly straightforward mode. For all that there's the little wrinkle of the Plando GT Big Key in Dante keys, that's still all dungeons key sanity at the end of the day. That's it. You guys are old rando hands. It's not like that's going to surprise you necessarily.
Nah.
You'd be surprised.
Wouldn't be the first time, won't be the last. We do have both of the Red Stalfos Exterminators in GT at this point, by the way. Yoinkers already has the big key, Mukau heading in the right direction. But all things considered, this was an interesting seed. A nice way for you two to kick off your team's fortunes for the season, and yeah, it looks like that division is going to provide a lot of interesting matchups. Hopefully we can get a few more of them on the restream here in the next 6 weeks or so.
Should be fun. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, likewise. It's my first season in League, but it seems like it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, I know it was. Wombat, you and I talked quite a bit before League started, and I kept pushing you, like, you'd be really good at this, man, and it's super fun. Find yourself a team. It's totally worth it. I'm so glad you guys got in this.
Yeah, 100%.
It was kind of funny because I think like Vix literally asked me like a year ago, like, "Hey, do you want to play like League next year?" I was like, "Sure, I'll join." And then I wasn't really 100% sure what was going to actually pan out when it rolled around, and sure enough, all works out in the end, I guess.
Yeah, and then you pick up Gray Corvid in a third, cross-key specialist who's faster than he wants anybody to believe.
Good, because that's probably the week that I want to sit out. I don't know what it is about entrance, but it breaks my brain, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's a pretty divisive mode. It's not the most fun to pick up. There's definitely a learning curve.
That's one of the things I definitely did. I found teammates who were willing to play that mode because I don't play it.
So as we watch Moo and Yoinkers push through the gauntlet in the GT climb, Yoinkers' wife putting down Moldorm with a simple spin is Mukals tries to set up the Silver's landmost shot. 1, 2, not going to get the third. Oh, Yoink, wow! Yoinkers dropping the bomb on the relegation chest.
Did she have a rough go of the seed?
I just don't think she likes the chest.
No, of everybody, Yoinkers was the only one not to be knocked off of the platform by Moldorm this seed.
Yeah. Yeah, overall, I don't think Yoinkers died anywhere either. I think she was one of the more like steady and consistent runners this time.
Yeah, I think Mentor Tourney helped her quite a bit.
Yeah, I know she's been doing a lot more of the late night pickup races with some of the other Discords as well. Really just fine tuning their game, and it showed in this race.
Yeah, she's been joining us for like Crystal Company on Fridays as of late as well. So it's good company.
Mukau picking up that piece of heart, hoping for the refill, doesn't get it.
Yeah, that was another thing in this race too that maybe made a little bit of a difference. Whereas you guys seem to be a little more comfortable on lower percent stuff. We saw Yoinkers and Mukau go a little bit more out of their way, seeing a heart piece and snagging it to try to boost their health early, which definitely helped in some cases, like in Mini Moldorm Cave. So maybe in the end, that little bit of time maybe didn't balance out as much as they had hoped, but it definitely was something that both of them kept up with. Okay, we had one person and still bombs it. I'm fine with that. At least they opened it. Little vanilla 20.
I mean, you weren't really going to find anything there.
Not the point. It's not the point, and you know it.
Yoinker's on into phase 4 here. Blink and you've missed the Scannon fight. And that particular Aga 2 pattern with that blue ball and the 2 shadow clones kind of split off to the flanks seems to have trapped basically everybody.
Yeah, there were some good spots for doubles in there. We see Mukau grabbing a double in that last set right there, but it definitely was some spots where that blue ball was coming from was just going to totally block. And as Yoinker's wife holds up the sword, get your GGs in chat, as they will cross the bridge.
Just as Mukau is dropping in and one fight away from bringing this pig roast to a close.
Sneaks up into Ganon just a little bit, take a little bit of a hug, but Fairy coming through in the clutch like they're supposed to.
That's what your safeties are there for. And we've got Mukau and Yoinker's wife joining us in the booth now as Mukau finishes up on the restream. This is 10 minutes ago Mukau version versus now Mukau version. Good game, you two.
GG's.
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 GG's to you both.
Yes, GG's, Wombat. GG's 6.
So go ahead and give us your kind of overall opinion of this scene.
It was a
I
seed.
sucked. I just made so many little mental and execution errors, and it shows I haven't touched a game in a couple weeks because I've been busy with real life. So I just could have been so much better. But I'll be 100% honest. I'm not coming into this thing expecting to win it, and I looked at the division, and there's a lot of names I recognize, and I'm just looking at it as I'm just hoping to disrupt at some point, and this was not going to be a race that I disrupt because we're going against 2 good people, so there's just no way we're beating it. You know, when they have that level of execution, I feel like we're in a death group for our experience level as a team.
Yeah, your division is no joke. There, we were talking about that a little bit ago. Just the level of talent in this group is kind of unparalleled, and sometimes that's just how it happens in League. But yeah, definitely don't count yourselves out. Rando is Rando after all. We've seen some crazy wins go the other way, so don't beat yourself up before you ever get started.
We're here to have fun and mess up the metrics.
There you go.
We can pull off an upset or two. That makes our season. That's our low bar expectation, and anything above that's gravy.
Well, Yoinkers, you've come quite a ways to get here because I remember encountering you first as a tracker for SpeedGaming dailies.
Yes. I started tracking races back in 2017. I'm old.
I wasn't even playing the game. It was a couple more years before I got onto the scene, but no, you've definitely moved from that to you're completing the seeds. You had a pretty good run of this one, in point of fact.
I felt that my Village of Outcast area could have been better. I diverged from my normal to go straight to Thieves Town instead of checking what I could have Skull Woods when I first got into the Dark World. And I regretted that as soon as I found the mirror.
Oh no.
So I did Thieves Town first, and I did the other 3 checks in Village of Outcasts, and then I went up to Skullwoods. And then I went back down. Or went over, and then I went back down. And then, by then it was just a check at K45. And I felt like a pinball, you know, kind of like what the floating skull was doing to me at the beginning of Turtle Rock.
If it makes you feel any better, that was the route I took.
Yeah, I'd say the other team did the exact same thing, and you're right. It was kind of a pinball in that area where you went and got the mirror, and then had to go down and get the fire on. You're like, well, great, you know, what am I gonna do now? So yeah, definitely don't take it too hard, because it kind of seemed like that was the right call from everybody.
Yeah, and then it's like, how do I string all this other stuff back in to where it makes sense instead of just save and quit, save and quit, save and quit, go up here, save and quit. It's all the saves and quits. Wow. Mm.
Yeah, and that kind of was part of the scene too, where Wombat and Vix definitely divided their work very well in dungeons and areas they knew had nothing. They just kind of like left until the very end where they could just push it. You and Moo both kind of focused on dungeons that like, oh, I can go finish this now, so I'm just going to go finish this now. And it kind of like led to a disparity further down the road. But a lot of that comes with experience and running with your partners, and you know, knowing, you know, co-op is a whole different animal compared to just running like cash boots. So
Yeah. We tried to divide the dungeons as much as possible, like so that we weren't checking the same things, but if there was something really important, you know, the other person would pop over and get it, kind of thing. But yeah, it was. I felt like a ping pong ball.
That is one of those things, particularly in the co-op info share space. At what point do you stop dividing the work and start following because you found something important enough that it's going to allow you to then split back up later?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for like this seed, like early game, like we knew there was a glove behind Aga 1. And when we were down to like relatively few bad things left in the light world, we basically, Vic started doing Aga before I did, but I decided to follow and get the glove just because it opened up so much more.
Yeah. I think we pretty much cleaned up Light World before going to Aga 1, but we knew the glove was there. We just wanted to make sure that we didn't miss anything. I think that's another thing. Sometimes I'm too thorough.
Yeah, it's kind of, you know, again, I think it's one of those things that comes with experience. I mean, we did a practice seed the other day, and we had a way better time than this one. So I think part of it for us was it was just the seed and how it was. Again, when you're going to Skull Woods, and then you're going all the way down, and you get your fire rod where it is, and you're bouncing back and forth. That just kind of is a bummer, but it adds time in itself. But you know, a lot of it's just the seed that was handed to us, and again, it was just the experience level of the team we were going against.
all right, so as we wrap everything up, want to give the runners one more chance just to give us a quick comment of anything going on. I know you guys' next race we already talked about is Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern, I believe. Hopefully we can get that one on and give you guys another show. But yeah, anyone got any more quick words about the seed before we wrap this?
It's over, thank God.
Yup, that's what I said after my first one.
Well, I think that it was definitely a seed, and I want to thank everyone for the restreams, for the commentary, the tracking. I know how hard it is to be behind the scenes, and I want to remind everyone you are the reason that somebody smiles every day, and today it was me.
Yes, thank you, Mind DM and Taylin, for doing the commentary, as well as Lady Laura Linda and Nira Lightshine for tracking, and anybody else in the restream team. that made this possible. You're all what make the community great.
And I'd like to echo those sentiments as well. You all just beat me to it.
Don't you hate it when you have to go last, Vix?
Right?
It's like, what do I say now?
I appreciate the restream.
How does about
I've
pizza, babe?
done a lot of restreams myself, so I know how much work is put into it. And I think it was Homemade
Oh,
Beer that was
whoops.
doing it, so thanks to him for the restream, setting it up here behind the scenes on SpeedGaming 6. Appreciate it, man.
Oh,
Well, Talon, with that, I guess we should go ahead and say the final words that need to be said and go ahead and get on out of here, huh?
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks to all our runners for putting on a show. We really appreciate it. Yeah, just want to echo thanks to the trackers. Thanks to Beer. Thanks to me and DM. Appreciate you. I don't think there's anything else for the league tonight on any of the channels, but there's a ton of games coming up tomorrow. And for the next 7 weeks, there'll be plenty of league action. So remember, keep checking back on the SpeedGaming family of channels to keep an eye on the ALTTPR League and other speedrunning games. I've been Talon116, and me and DM, I'll let you finish it off.
All right. For all of our runners here who put on a great show, Wombat, Vix, Mookow, Yoinker's Wife, for Lady Laura Linda, and Nira Lightshine who did the tracking, for Homemade Beer who did a bunch of the front-end setup stuff so that this thing happened at all, and for my co-commentator Talon, I am MindDM saying, have a great rest of your day or night, everybody. We are signing this thing off. Bye for now.
Thanks all.